In the icy waters of the Arctic, a monster lay in wait, a steel behemoth forged in the heart of Nazi Germany that struck fear into the hearts of the Allied forces. Its name was Tirpitz, Hitler's unsinkable battleship. For 3 long years it haunted the seas, a symbol of German naval might. 33 failed attempts to destroy it, thousands of lives lost in the effort. But on a freezing morning in November 1944, a group of daring RAF pilots, known as the Dam Boosters, took to the skies for one final mission. A mission that would change the course of history. This is the story of how the Tirpitz was sunk, a tale of ingenuity, sacrifice, and the unrelenting resolve of those who refused to let the beast prevail. Launched on April 1, 1939, from the Wilhelmshaven shipyard in Germany, the Tirpitz was an engineering marvel, a floating fortress designed to dominate the seas. At 823 feet long and weighing over 50,000 tons, it was one of the largest battleships ever built. Its 8 15-inch guns could hurl shells 17 miles, obliterating targets with devastating precision. Its armor plating, up to 12 inches thick in critical areas, was so robust that conventional bombs simply bounced off its hull, leaving little more than scratches. Powered by engines that propelled it at an astonishing 35 miles per hour, the Tirpitz outran every British battleship in the Allied fleet. It was, in every sense, a technological triumph. But the Tirpitz was more than a machine. To Winston Churchill, it was a psychological weapon, a specter that loomed over Allied strategy. He nicknamed it the Beast, a fitting moniker for a ship that could disrupt entire naval operations without ever firing a shot. Stationed in the remote fjords of Norway, surrounded by jagged cliffs and icy waters, the Tirpitz posed a constant threat to the Arctic convoys, lifelines carrying vital supplies like food, fuel, and munitions to the Soviet Union. Its mere presence was enough to sow panic among Allied commanders. In June 1942, the Tirpitz demonstrated its power in a way no one could have predicted. Rumors swirled that the battleship was preparing to leave its Norwegian hideout and attack Convoy PQ17, a fleet of 35 merchant ships bound for Russia. The British Admiralty, gripped by fear, made a fateful decision. They ordered the convoy to scatter, hoping to evade the Tirpitz's wrath. It was a catastrophic mistake. Without the protection of their naval escorts, the merchant ships became easy prey for German U-boats and Luftwaffe bombers. By the time the ordeal was over, only 11 ships reached their destination. The rest were sunk, their crews lost to the frigid depths of the Arctic Ocean. The Tirpitz hadn't fired a single shot, yet it had secured a devastating victory for Germany. This psychological triumph galvanized Churchill's resolve. "Sink the Tirpitz at all costs," he declared. The Allies launched a relentless campaign to destroy the battleship, throwing everything they had at it: submarines armed with torpedoes, commandos infiltrating the fjords under cover of darkness, and waves of airstrikes that braved ferocious anti-aircraft fire. But the Tirpitz lived up to its reputation as unsinkable. Time and again, it emerged from the smoke and chaos unscathed, its crew taunting their pursuers from the safety of their armored decks. By 1944, the Allies were running out of time. The war was turning in their favor, but the Tirpitz remained a thorn in their side, tying up Royal Navy resources that were desperately needed elsewhere. The RAF turned to its elite 617 Squadron, known as the Dam Boosters, and their comrades in 9 Squadron. These were no ordinary pilots. The dam busters had earned their legend a year earlier by breaching German dams with bouncing bombs, a feat of precision and courage that had stunned the world. Now they were tasked with an even greater challenge: to bring down the Tirpitz once and for all. The weapon chosen for the mission was as extraordinary as the men who would deliver it. The Tallboy bomb, designed by the brilliant engineer Barnes Wallis, weighed 12,000 pounds and was built to penetrate even the thickest armor. Unlike conventional bombs, the Tallboy was an earthquake in explosive form, capable of burrowing deep into its target before detonating with cataclysmic force. But delivering such a weapon required extraordinary measures. The RAF's Lancaster bombers, already workhorses of the air war, were stripped of all non-essential equipment, armor, guns, even seats, to increase their fuel capacity for the grueling 3,400-mile round trip from Scotland to Norway and back. The pilots knew the risks. Flying without defenses in the Arctic winter, with temperatures plunging to minus 40 degrees, was a gamble with death itself. On the morning of November 12, 1944, as dawn broke over the Scottish air base at Lossiemouth, 29 Lancaster bombers took to the skies. The air was thick with frost, and the pilots' breath fogged in the cockpits as they climbed into the clouds. Their destination? Tromsø, a remote Norwegian fjord where the Tirpitz lay anchored, surrounded by anti-aircraft batteries and radar installations. The mission, codenamed Operation Catechism, was a logistical nightmare. The bombers would need to refuel at a forward base in Russia before making their final approach, navigating treacherous Arctic weather and German defenses. Failure was not an option. As the Lancasters approached the Tirpitz, the German defenders were caught off guard. The bombers had flown at low altitude to evade radar, and by the time the alarm was raised, it was too late. The dam busters' precision was surgical. Diving through a hail of flak, they released their Tallboy bombs with devastating accuracy. The massive projectiles plunged through the Tirpitz's deck like darts piercing a board. One bomb struck mid-ship, triggering a catastrophic explosion in the ship's ammunition magazine. Another obliterated a gun turret, sending it soaring into the air like a toy tossed by a giant. The Tirpitz's steel hull, once thought impenetrable, buckled under the onslaught. Within 90 seconds, the mighty battleship capsized, its crew trapped inside the sinking wreckage. The sinking of the Tirpitz was a triumph for the Allies, but it came at a horrific human cost. Of the 2,700 sailors aboard, over 970 perished, many trapped in the overturned hull. Survivors later recounted hearing their comrades entombed in air pockets, singing Deutschland über alles as they awaited a rescue that never came. The tragedy underscored the brutal reality of war, where victory for one side meant unimaginable loss for another. One of the raid's enduring mysteries is why the German Luftwaffe failed to intercept the bombers. Years after the war, a startling theory emerged. Kurt Wessner, a German radar officer stationed in Norway, may have deliberately delayed sending alerts to the Luftwaffe. Documents uncovered decades later suggested that Wessner and a small group of colleagues were part of an anti-Nazi resistance movement, quietly working to undermine Hitler's war machine. If true, Wessner's act of sabotage was a flicker of humanity in the darkness of war, a reminder that even in the enemy's ranks, there were those who longed for peace. When news of the Tirpitz's destruction reached London, Winston Churchill sent a jubilant message to Soviet leader Joseph Stalin. RAF bombers have sunk the Tirpitz. Let us rejoice together. The Royal Navy, freed from the burden of guarding against the battleship, could now redirect its forces to other theaters of war. The sinking marked the end of Germany's naval ambitions in the Atlantic, a turning point that signaled the Third Reich's impending collapse. Miraculously, every Lancaster bomber returned to Scotland without a single loss, a feat celebrated as nothing short of divine intervention. The dam-busters were hailed as heroes, their precision and bravery etched into the annals of military history. But the story of the Tirpitz is not just one of destruction, it is a story of reconciliation. Years later, former enemies like RAF pilot Tony Iveson and Luftwaffe fighter pilot Kurt Schultz met as friends, bound by the shared pain of war and a mutual desire to move beyond its horrors. The sinking of the Tirpitz remains one of the most remarkable achievements of aerial warfare. A German survivor pulled from the wreckage later reflected, "We thought it was unsinkable, but we were wrong." The Tirpitz was more than a ship. It was a symbol of hubris, of the belief that technology could defy the will of those determined to fight for freedom. Its destruction was a testament to the courage, ingenuity, and sacrifice of the men who flew into the Arctic skies, knowing they might never return. Today, the Tirpitz lies in pieces at the bottom of a Norwegian fjord, a relic of a war that reshaped the world. But its story endures, a reminder that even the mightiest beasts can be brought down by the resolve of those who dare to challenge them. The dam-busters' final mission was not just a victory, it was a beacon of hope in humanity's darkest hour.